I think the frame is effed. That one on that side is straight. This one is not. In the manual, it says this is where you're supposed to jack it up. So I did. And now it's bent, and that's probably irrecoverable. Probably what I was supposed to do is jack it up like there and then put the jack stand like nearby. I don't know. I don't know what I was supposed to do. Nothing, everything that I tried just ends up somehow failing somehow. And this is just the latest thingy. The whole reason I'm doing this right this second is because I'm trying to get the one bolt on the differential extracted that broke. I mean, there is literally nothing I could do with this, like aside from like unwelding that piece and then putting a new one in its place. But I don't think that anybody makes these anymore. I mean, this is just like a key part of the body. I'm just gonna be mad about it forever now. So I'm gonna have to buy a right angle drill because the rear axle, you know, it goes up and down, but it's already at its maximum travel, and it's still not low enough to where I can get clearance to fit a drill or an impact wrench in there. So I put an offer out for a 3/8 inch pneumatic air drill, just because I cannot get the angle in there to get a right angle to drill into that thing. So hopefully I'll be able to use my bolt extractors to extract the bolts with that air drill. This one obviously isn't going to work, but I can use this to just work its way up to the wider bit. I don't know exactly how big these bolts are. It's not going to be this size. It's probably going to be the next size lower, which is unfortunate because like you want to be using the widest one that you've got. And the problem is just it is uneven, which is, you know, why I've kind of got to work this around in a little circle just to make a round enough or flat enough surface, you know, that there will be either a flat surface or an indentation that I can fit, that I can get this thing going. And I tried just using just this, but, you know, even this being the shortest thing is not working. These will fit into a 1/4 inch hex socket, and I can kind of use it like that, you know, but you're talking something that needs like hundreds of revolutions in order to, you know, start to wear down the metal to where you can fit that in there. And I might even have to end up using a tap and die in order to correct the threads, just, you know, because if I've got a drill bit in there and it's moving around, it's probably making contact with the walls, you know, the bolt screws into. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. It looks like I am going to have to replace the seal on the front of, you know, the rear differential thingy, because like there's gear oil and it's fresh gear oil and it's at this end, you know, where that thing plugs in, and I've already cleaned it off like before. You know, so I know it's not just stuff that's dripping from here and somehow making its way forward and getting onto there. It's, you know, it's actually coming from that seal. And I know it's not coming from this thing either. I don't think, unless that thing's wet. Yeah, no, that's super dry. So it looks like I'm gonna have to replace that seal. I really didn't want to have to do that because I don't want to screw anything up by tightening that differential yoke nut down to the wrong tightness. And I'm going to do everything I can to make sure, you know, I'm going to count the turns, I'm going to mark the bolts, I'm going to just be super careful with it. You know, just make a ton of marks, make sure I don't get my marks mixed up, and just make sure everything goes back on as it's, you know, supposed to. I even got one of the beam torque wrenches, you know, to make sure that I'm getting it done correctly. So today's just kind of been ruined by that, you know, that thing not working. And I'm gonna have to wait like a week for that air wrench to get here. I don't want to do any more work out here just because I kind of promised myself that I would just do one thing just so that in the future, my fear of coming out here, my reluctance to work on anything is decreased, you know, playing psychological warfare with myself. Like, I could do more. There are tons of things to work on, including the service engine light keeps coming on because the O2 sensor on this side, on the passenger side, is the one that I still haven't changed out. And I could work on that. You know, I could work on the panel on the driver's side, the thing that does the locks and the windows. I could work on replacing the fuses so that these windows will roll up and down. I could, you know, put the wrap on the, I did go to Harbor Freight and get one of those, didn't I? I did. I know I did. I don't know what I put. I think I put, yes, I did. I got more of these sockets, so now I can use the air hammer and I can use the blowy gun thingy. So there's a lot of stuff I could do. I could check the oil because the oil keeps leaking out. I could go to the O'Reilly's and do a leak down test and do a compression test. You know, I could do that thing where you check and see if there's any bubbles coming out of the coolant, see if maybe there's, you know, a gasket leak there. I'm not going to do any of that just because I'm going to deliberately try to restrict myself from working on this more than I really need to. Like if it's not imminent. And I'm really trying hard not to do that. It stings because I want to go on vacation and stuff, but just with all the things going on with this car, especially with the vibrations coming from the drive shaft, I just don't feel safe doing that because I don't want to get stranded and it's just not comfortable driving for any length of time. There's a new Mustang at the pull apart, so I could get the ABS computer out of that one. I just hate working on cars, and I'm pretty sure most other people do. Alright, so the seller accepted my offer. I ended up spending $53 with shipping and tax in order to get a right-angled drill. So the thingies that I think are going to work the best would ideally be the number 2 speed out thing, but I don't think that's going to work because this thing's broken. So I'm going to try to see if I can get it to work with this. If not, I'm just going to end up having to buy a completely new speed out set. I took out one of the bolts, and I know I was saying I didn't want to do any more work on the car today, but this is related, so I'm making an exception. I used a thread checker, and it looks like it's a 5/16 5/16 by, I was hesitating for a moment because here. All right, so I think the thing that would work the best would be the number 2 speed out thing, but obviously that's broken, so if the number 1 doesn't work, I don't know if I want to ruin it any further by attempting to use the number 3 speed out thing, just because, I mean, look at this, it's almost the same diameter as this, so I don't want to risk ruining it really. So if the number 1 doesn't work, I don't know if I want to try to use this. Like, it could get in there a little bit and kind of wrench it free, maybe, ideally, hopefully, but I don't think it's going to. I don't know, we'll see what happens. I don't want to have to buy a whole new speed out set. It's 5/16 -18. I'm not familiar with what those things mean. All I know is that screwy, fitty works. It is right about 3/4 of an inch long, like from the base of this to the end of this. It's a little bit short of that. I mean, I think ideally I'd be getting like an 11/16 length thingy. Also note that it's like, you know, the threads end short of the end of this thing, so I want to make sure I'm getting one that's like that instead of one that's got, you know, threads down the entire length of it and it just kind of ends at a right angle. It's a 13mm bolt. It's got these grippy things on it to keep it from slippy out. So that's what's next. It's 32 foot-pounds. I've probably even got my wrench, my torque wrench set to 32 foot-pounds from last time I was doing this. So that's what's next. Just put the bolt back and just wait a week. Great, just making a short-ish video so I can document just where I'm at right now. So far, I haven't run into any problems. So the jack points that I've got are right there. I know they said use the torque box. Ow, that was my elbow. This thing is where you're supposed to jack it up from, but I mean, this is connected to it, so that's pretty much the same thing, I think. And that's more metal equals better. I've marked the drive shaft so that I can put it back, you know, the way I pulled it out. The bolts that I took out of there are 12mm. I had to take off the brake calipers, and they say that you're supposed to take off the support thingies to get the proper drag on this, but I mean, the amount of friction like that this thing is causing is pretty minimal. Like, you know, the drag from this thing being on there like is going to be not a lot, so I'm not too worried about it. I think I'm going to be able to get a good enough reading. I'll try it out. If not, that means I'll have to take out the whole support bracket. That's pretty much where I'm at right now. I'm trying to. Oh, I did want to note, there's no bolts on this side. I think there might be bolts on some like models of Mustangs on this side, but this, all you have to do is just slide it back that way. There's nothing holding it in there aside from just, you know, the bolts on that side, like just pinning it into place. I might have ruined my drive shaft and the yoke and that thingy. So I used my impact gun to get those things out, but in doing so, it like, I don't know what I'm doing, right? This is the first time I've ever done this, so I've got that going for me at least. But I drove it too far, and it made these indents there, like where this thing went like too far this way, and to where it was pushing against it. And all I had to do was just, you know, take off the little caps instead of just continuing to drive it forward. So now I've got these burrs right there, so it's probably going to be hard to get the thing back in. So, you know, I don't think, like, okay, so I've got my angle grinder, right? I don't think they even, well, so I've got a right angle drill now, but I don't have the bits that would let me like sand that down. Like I could try just using a drill bit and see if I can like, you know, use that and maybe like drill it down, get it a little bit more flush. But it's like there's an indent there and there and there and there. There's like going to be 4 on each one of these surfaces where I did that exact same thing. So there and there and there and there. This one isn't as bad, but you can still feel them. This is ridiculous. Like, how could I? So I have to come up with some kind of solution to this instead of it being a quick process. The bearings themselves, like the U-joint bearings, like they all looked fine. Like I didn't see anything wrong with them. Like they all looked like they were, you know, had grease on them and everything. Like none of them looked like they were dry. You know, no little needle pins missing or anything. Just freaking hate working on cars. And I hate messing stuff up. Like nobody told me that that was a possibility. All they said was just do-do-do, and they didn't say anything about overshooting it like that. Okay, so I got the first set of bearings in. The thing that I ran into is if I'm using this, it goes too fast, and so it can kind of run past where it's supposed to, like the little indentation in there. The little thingies, little kidney bean clips, those are fiddly even when I'm using my thingies. I might try putting different tips on there, but it really just doesn't seem to matter which one I use. I don't think it'll make a difference. It's just difficult, and you're just having to wrestle with it. So it might just be something where I lack the ability. So the good thing is, I think I've got these in correctly. I think all the needle pins stayed where they were supposed to. I don't think like any are like bent and like laying flat like this way horizontally when they're supposed to be vertical. And this is stiff, and when I took it off, like these are really wobbly. So I think they were, you know, I'm hoping that's why, you know, I'm getting these vibrations above 65 miles an hour. So I got the first set in there. I did lightly put some black grease along the inside of this. 2 things. So first of all, Moog on their website doesn't say what kind of grease you're supposed to use with this. It's got clear grease. It's like kind of the same color as Vaseline grease. And I don't know what you're supposed to use with clear grease. I don't know if the black grease that I have is compatible with it. Or if the red grease that I've got, you know, the super tacky grease would be compatible with it. And it's just, I don't know what kind of grease that is. You're not telling me like what it's based on. Is it molybdenum? Is it calcium? Is it lithium? Silicone? It's just, there's a bajillion different things it could be based in, and it's like the only way for me to know for sure if they're compatible or not is just by asking Moog, and I don't want to ask Moog because Moog can just ignore me. I could just completely flush it And the reason why maybe that's what I'm supposed to do is because this is a flush type Zerk fitting. Because it's supposed to be flush. And I don't have a flush needle point thing that you're supposed to use with flush Zerk fittings. Which means I'm going to have to buy one, and of course that's one tool that I don't have. I'm just going to hope that I don't have to grease them right now, and maybe some other time I can grease this. It's just another thing that I'm going to have to add to a to-do list, and I don't want to have to do it. So I still have to get the other set on. I haven't even started with doing the whole preload check, the whole pinion nut drag thingy. So this took me like an hour to do, but maybe it'll go faster now that I've got at least a little bit more understanding of what it is going to take for this to come together. I don't know if I've done this right. So this end, like, okay, look, this is real stiff. I have to put effort into turning this back and forth. All right. Then there's this one. Like, I don't have to put any effort pretty much into turning this back and forth. So maybe it just needs more grease than the other one doesn't, but I'm really hoping that I haven't messed anything up with like the needle pins and stuff, because like when I was trying to put the other one together, like on this side, like the pins were, you know, flopping over like while I was trying to install it. So I'm just afraid that like one of those pins is like caught, you know, and that's why it's so stiff. Because think about it. If it's harder for it to turn back and forth, maybe that means that there's more pressure, you know, this way. And the only way that there could be more pressure between the two sides is if they were being squeezed, you know, if they were being squeezed more. And the way that could happen is maybe if there's a greater impediment to that thing turning. So I don't know what I need to do next. Like if I need to take it back apart and inspect it and stuff, and see if maybe some pins flopped over while I was installing it, or if it's just, you know, maybe some slight differences between you know, the actual units that were shipped and the amount of grease that was in each one. Maybe that one has more grease and that's why it's, you know, easier for it to turn, whereas this one has less grease and it's harder for it to turn. I don't know what to do. I really don't want to have to take this back apart. Like, I'm more confident with these ones, and this one's a harder one to turn. Like, it's pretty much about the same. Like, turning this and turning this, like, this one's a little bit stiffer. So, of those two, you know, it would make more sense, because I was checking more carefully to make sure the pins were where they were supposed to be on the needle pin bearings on the flange side versus the ones that are on the drive shaft side, because I wasn't looking, like I wasn't trying to keep track of it as carefully. So maybe there's just not as much lube, and that's why it's harder for it to move, and the other one just has more lube. I don't know. I don't know if I need to keep working on this tonight, because I think probably what's going to end up, like, this is a good stopping point. You know, I've achieved something. I'm I've, you know, gotten something to where it's supposed to be. If I start getting into something else, what's going to happen is I'm going to run into an obstacle and I'll be just exhausted and not wanting to spend time trying to fix it. I know they say don't leave those things dangling because it can stretch out your brake line and stuff, but I did this like back when I was working on the brakes like a couple weeks ago, and I haven't noticed any damage, so great. I just don't think I can really marathon this. Like, I've gotten 4 hours of sleep, so I don't know. It's 12:30 a.m. right now, which is about when I'd normally be awake anyway, but maybe this is enough for today. I could just check on the drag, but I might not like what I see, you know? I mean, that's the whole reason why I've got all this different stuff, you know? I've bought, you know, a bunch of different tools and parts and stuff just so I can replace that seal. Alright, so I was able to use this tool to check the preload on the pinion nut, and I didn't have to take off the disc rotor thingies. I just tightened them down like a couple of the lug nuts, and that way it's not like wobbling, it's just pretty much stationary, and I don't think it's affecting the drag any. Like, they say that you're supposed to take off the brackets, but I didn't take them off, and it's not rubbing against the bracket, so I don't care. The bad news is, which might not be completely bad news, but the reading that I got on this was like at most 5 inch-pounds. Like, it was going there, and like a lot of the times it was like 2.5 to like 4. Like 5 was the highest I could get it, and like I think that's a little bit like right at like 5.5 Newton meters. So the bad news is I'm not going to be able to mark the nut and do the whole thing with the turns in the same way that like I was originally planning on doing, and, you know, counting the threads that are sticking out past the nut. And it means that it's possible that I'll screw this up trying to take off that nut. It's also possible that it's been wrong this whole time, and that's what's causing the vibrations above 65 miles an hour. I mean, I probably checked this, like, I didn't just do it once. I did this probably like 3 dozen times to make sure that I'm not just crazy, you know, and I'm seeing something that's not correct. But that is way lower than it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be in between 8 and 14. 5 is not 8. And it's definitely not 10 or 14, you know. A lot of people, I was, you know, watching their videos, and they're like, you know, you should tighten it down to like 10. But like, this is like half of what it's supposed to be, which means that, has that nut backed off? Like, is that what's been happening? Is that what's causing the vibration? If I tighten it more than that, to where it's like at 8 inch-pounds, am I going to screw this up? Am I going to like ruin all the you know, delicate stuff that's going on with the differential if I tighten it down more than it's supposed to be tightened down to? Once again, I don't know what to do. My plan A is shot. You know, my next, I guess I could just take it off, count the revolutions. I could just tighten down the nut that's on there, like right now, to see if it'll actually tighten down or if that'll be like impossible to do. Like if my theory is correct that I mean, okay, so here's the thing. Even when that thing was put on, if you've got new bearings, it is higher than 14 inch-pounds. Like it's something like 16 to something else. Like 16 to 24, I think. I could be wrong about that. But either way, that is way short of where it's supposed to be. I mean, this car it's a 2004 car, and that nut's probably never been replaced, neither has the seal. You know, so it's had 20 years to back itself off. Well, 18 years, but like if it was done incorrectly like way back then, that means that everything downstream of that nut is also off, which means if I tighten this down more than that, the wrong way that they've got it set up is going to be messed up even more, because I'll be tightening it down past that, and so like all the backlash and everything will be messed up. So like and the only way to fix that is to completely take apart the differential, and you've got to use like precision instruments, and it means taking, like putting it together and taking it back apart like multiple times, and every time you do that it takes several hours to do, just to see if you're gonna get it exactly where it's supposed to go. And you're talking like shims that are like 1,000th of an inch. I guess what I'm gonna do is just take the nut off as is, and I guess I could even use my power thing, because like, I mean, if it's already messed up, I don't really need to count the number of rotations. I mean, I guess I could do that just to get like a ballpark figure, but knowing that I'll have to tighten it down even more, than, you know, past the point of where it was originally. I'm gonna aim for like, it seems like I ought to aim for 10, because like the markings on this thing are bad. Like, I mean, ideally this thing would be showing gradations of like even numbers, instead of like it's got 3 marks in between each number, you know. So like this is 2.5, this is 5, this is 7.5, this is 10. So if I were to do like 8, that would be, we're talking a difference of like 1,000th of an inch. Like, look at this. Dude, that would be 8, that would be 9, that's 10. So it would probably be best for me to just aim for 10, you know. Just kind of deal with any clunking and stuff that's going on in the differential. But maybe this is a good thing. Maybe this is just telling me that this is what, you know, has been causing the vibrations, because all the, you know, the U-joints, they looked fine, you know, when I was taking them apart, and I didn't notice any like missing needle bearings or anything. So I guess that's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna mark the nut, count the turns, and then just go past that. But, you know, I'm afraid that I'll crush the sleeve more, and if I'm doing that, then I'll have messed up all the super teeny tiny delicate little fiddly precision-based stuff, and I don't want to do that, obviously. This is a worm. That's gross. I thought that was like a piece of like RTV or something. So I could try to take it off tonight, but it's pretty quiet out now, so maybe that's my sign that I need to be getting ready for bed. So it turns out I didn't need that piece of, what is it, hot rolled angle steel. I didn't need to use that at all because I used one of these bolts from back when I was, I think this is from when I was working on the steering column. It needed a bolt that would fit in there. I just put it there, and it's like long enough that it bumps up against the differential housing. It was just a little bit over 16 turns in order to take this off. So that's like, if this were the 3 o'clock position, this wouldn't even be like 2. So it's just barely like past the 16 mark. So that's what the bolt looks like, and that's what that thing looks like. So my next step is get the puller thingy and yank it this way using that. I got the pinion seal out, so that's what it looks like. It had red RTV along the outside of it, and that's kind of mostly what was keeping it in place, and it took me like an hour and a half to get it out. And I used like a spatula thingy and just kind of hit it with a hammer around the outside of it until I could finally get it loose. And I used like the Jaws puller thingy. I used that like to, you know, kind of get it from the outside, but it wasn't very helpful. It was helpful a little bit, but mostly it was just, you know, the fact that they're right angle thingies and they're pulling this way on it. And I don't have a seal puller, and this is really kind of making me think that I ought to invest like the $25 in getting one, or however much they are. So this is the new seal. I'm going to put the red RTV, or not red RTV. Yes, I am going to put red RTV. I'm going to put red RTV along the outside of this. And it looks like this is red RTV. That might just be like the coating though. Like, I don't know if they actually put red RTV on that, or if it's just like the same rubberized coating that this thing has. But I'm gonna at least put it on there. I'm not gonna put anything aside from like gear oil along this thing, like the inside of this. Like maybe I ought to look and see if people put like grease along the inside of this and along the inside of this, like to kind of keep stuff at bay. But really the red grease, like where the spring is mostly just to keep the spring from getting loose. It's not to actually stop any kind of gear oil, like from like escaping. That's not what it's there for. I did a pretty good job of marring the outer surface of the differential, like where I had the spatula and was beating on it with a hammer. So it's got a bunch of dents in it. Like the inside surface is fine, and that's really mostly where like that thing is going to be sealing stuff up. Like, yes, that surface there is going to be, you know, is supposed to be sealed too, but like it's less important than like the inside circumference of the cylinder. This thing keeps dribbling out gear oil, and I'm assuming that it's just going to do that for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. You know, so my alternatives are drain the fluid so that I can dry that thing out enough to where you know, I can actually put the RTV there that would seal it, or I could just depend on, you know, the RTV itself. I mean, that's the problem. RTV like requires it to be dry in order for it to set up properly. So I'd pretty much have to forego any RTV on that spot, just because, you know, that's where the gear oil is going to be. So I don't know if I want to waste the gear oil though. My plan is to pour this into a cup, take an identical cup of the same size, you know, plastic disposable cup, and fill that one up with gear oil, and then from there fill it up like from the inlet, you know, and that'll tell me that I've kept the same volume like between those two. But the problem is, like, I'm going to be losing an unknown amount of, I mean, I could measure it. Like, I could take a additional cup, fill it with water, just so I've got an idea of exactly how much differential fluid is in there. So that way I could divide the total amount of fluid, you know, by the amount of friction modifier, and add the appropriate amount of friction modifier to that. The water's just there to tell me, like, you know, how much of each of those components, like, I should be adding. So I don't know. If I'm going to be filling it back up with gear oil anyway, kind of the RTV idea wouldn't really matter. Because if I'm filling it up immediately with gear oil, you know, after putting in the thingy, then it's not really going to matter because it's not going to set up properly. It'd just be there for decoration purposes. Like, you're supposed to wait like 24 hours for it to set up and stuff, and it's just like, I don't want to wait until 4 a.m. because it's like 4 a.m. or 4:30 a.m. right now, on Sunday night in order to do this. I just, you know, want it done like tonight if I can. That kind of impatience is potentially going to hurt me later on. Like, I assume that RTV can set up in like a lubricant flooded environment, but I just assume that it would just take forever for it to set. So I don't know what to do. I need to just, I don't think I'm going to have this done by 6 a.m. And 6 a.m. is when it's going to start raining, and the whole garage is going to start getting wet, and it's going to be like that all week. So I'm just like, I feel like I need to finish this now instead of waiting, you know. So I'm going to check on the cure time. I've got some black RTV too. Just, I don't want to open that thing up because it's always just like a pain trying to unplug the dried up RTV in between stuff. Like the guy in this one video, he didn't even use RTV. He just, you know, threw it in there and stuff. So maybe it just doesn't even matter. You know, ow, oh, that hurt. This says let dry for 1 hour, and allow, yeah, that's the problem. It's like I have to do this now for it to like be, you know, fully ready. So it's like, okay, I can't just procrastinate with putting this thing in there. The thing that I can procrastinate is putting the oil in there. You know, I could get everything else done, and then I could fill it with oil. You know, because the tires can be on, the drive shaft can be installed, the nut can be torqued down. it's just a matter of, okay, are you going to leave it up, let it be drained out and dry, and then you can fill it up with RTV, or not RTV, you can fill it up with gear oil later. I think that's probably my best bet. Like, just drain the fluids. I'm gonna be losing some, and I'm gonna have to buy some more. I don't like the idea of putting like dirty gear oil that's kind of been contaminated from debris falling in it, you know, from the process of draining it out from the like the differential, the front of the different. Yeah, you can tell, like, tired. I'm getting very tired, and it's hard for me to just make decisions right now. I don't know. Let me see what my red RTV says, how long that takes for it to cure. Yeah, both of these say the same thing. This says dry for an hour, this says dry for an hour, this says let it set for 24 hours before like reintroducing it to oil. This says the same thing, so it doesn't matter which one of these I pick. Like this one, I mean, they're the same thing. You can use them on oil pans for either one. It's just you can't use this one with gas, like gasoline related stuff, and I think this one you can. Nope, this one you can too. So I don't know why people get this when you could just as easily be using this. So I'm just going to use this because it's already open, and I want to make sure I've got it. I don't want to open it unless I really have to. I took a break to eat a snack and just, you know, drink water and stuff. I'm not going to be able to reuse this because it exploded when I was trying to like use my tool to move the stuff towards the front. And there's just, you know, I made sure I poked around in the front of it like with a pokey tool to try to clear out any of the dried stuff, but this happened instead. Like I was just like, you know, if I just put enough force, it'll just start making its way through the channels that I poked with the pokey stick. But it didn't. So I put some of that on the thingy and then beat it into place with a piece of wood as a spacer. I'm going to go ahead and try to get that one in there just so I'll have both of the seals in place, and I'm still putting off the hardest thing, which is just, you know, trying to get the nut down to where it's supposed to be. That's the hardest, scariest thing here. Alright, so that's the front one for the tail thing. I took out the plug for the differential, and that served no useful purpose because the gear oil line is already below like the fill line thing, and I was just hoping that maybe because of the angle, like some of it would drain off so it wouldn't be, you know, contacting the RTV and stuff. So I'm gonna have to torque that down too. I mean, I was gonna have to refill it anyway, so I guess, you know, it's not a bad thing that I took it out. Alright, so next, just pounding out the seal on the transmission thingy to try to get that out, and then putting this in. I think I've been trying for like at least an hour and a half or something to try to get the old seal out. So this is what the seal looks like right now. I've thoroughly beaten on it from the side, and people are like, well, all you have to do is deform it on one side, and then you can pry it with a screwdriver and then it'll pop right out. Yeah, that's not happening with this. This is plenty deformed. Part of the problem is that it's hard to get in there from the side. like where it's meeting the side of the shaft, and I've already marred the transmission thingy, like the outside of it. But it's like, it's not working. And that's because there's a lot of metal involved in this thingy. I don't have a seal puller. I'll probably get one after this, after learning my lesson from this nightmare. So this is a lot of metal. This green part, here. So this entire lip here, that's all metal. This green part here, that's all metal. This bridge here, in between this and the inner cylinder, that's metal. Then it goes down another vertical wall, so that's metal. Then we've got this horizontal platform here, that's metal. So we've got multiple layers of metal that you'd have to deform. So what I've deformed so far is just this outer wall here. And I've pushed it this way, so it should be deformed enough that it would let me get it out, but it's not, just because probably they've got RTV along the outside, although I haven't really seen any evidence of that. So I don't know. There's the trick that you can do. Like I've tried multiple tools. I've tried like a nail puller. I've tried a little hook thingy. I've tried doing this and working my way around it. But the problem too is there's not as much room on this side as there is like on the tail shaft end as there is on the differential end. So I cannot get to the upper part in order to break it through. It's just close quarters again. I can't use the same jaw puller that I did on the other side just because the geometry of the jaw puller is so bulky to where it's not able to like catch hold of this. So the thing that I've done before to take off seals is to actually drill through it. And I did this like for the seal that came out from the crankshaft on my other car, and I ended up scratching the thing that the seal fits into, and so I don't want to do that again. Like I took a screw and I put it through there, and I put two different screws, and then I was able to, like, I forget exactly how I did it. I think it was like with pliers and just like pulling on the pliers a whole bunch to get it out. But it's like, look, this was hammered into place. You've got an entire cylinder worth of metal contacting this, and this is like, it's not thin steel. It's not aluminum. This is steel. So it's like, how am I supposed to get this done? Like, I could do that thing where like, I know there's different things you can do with like the placement of like screws into different places, and you're trying to get leverage in order to get it out, but it's like there's got to be a better way, you know. I fucking hate this. Just, this is miserable. Things have gone from bad to very, 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 very much worse. The good news is I got the seal out. As you can see from right here, that's a screw. And that is a broken screw. I was able to get this thing out by drilling a hole through this, then using the hooked tool to hook into this, and then pry it out that way. When I was taking this out, I noticed that it was still stuck, and it was pivoting around this. And that is because that broken off screw is now screwed into the extension housing of the transmission. I don't know what to do. It's a problem. I don't know what those little 3 cavities do. I don't know how I'm going to get that screw out. Or, like, is it just going to be wedged in there forever? Like, can I get this this sleeve cylinder thing out? Can I get that out maybe? And then maybe get the screw out from there. I am so effed right now, and I am miffed on top of that. Look, the screw thing was my weapon of last resort, and I literally just said, like, it had messed something up by, you know, it had marred the surface of the interior cylinder of the crankshaft thing when I tried this trick last time. I don't know how I'm going to be able to get that thing out, because it is like screwed in there, and I don't even know how far it's screwed in there. I could use like the remnants of the screw threads I've got just to observe how screwed this screw is, and how screwed I am by extension. Yeah, I don't know, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being I've got to get a completely new one of these things, how bad this is. It just looks terrible. This is the worst. I don't know what to do next. I don't know what to do next. I despise, all I wanted was bus routes and trains and stuff. This is just so, I despise this. It's possible. It's possible that I won't even need to do anything differently as far as getting the bolt out. Well, the main concern, I guess, is that alright, we're finally here. My main concern is that it's not that because I think what these are is maybe they're thingies that a special tool slides into so that you can remove the bushing. This bushing is my main concern, and I don't like how it's raised right there, because what I'm afraid of is that there's going to be friction in between the yoke and that bushing. I don't want that to happen. I could try just slipping the drive shaft in there and rotating it and and trying to see if I hear any scraping, but I can't force that back down with that screw in the way, I don't think. I think these are just lubrication channels, or maybe they're like reuptake thingies. I looked in the manual and I don't see where these holes are like specifically described. So I don't know what I'm gonna do next. I was thinking maybe I could take a smaller drill bit and drill into the screw and see if maybe it'll get a grip on that screw and then like pull it out that way. And then somehow I can tamp that bent portion back down. Or I could just try to see if I can tamp it back down like without doing any of that. Like, I know for sure that transmission fluid is like in this area, because like some of it was dripping out when I was working on this. I think it's just maybe those channels like pass transmission fluid back and forth. So these are the screws I got. Very good screws. Not a good thing in this particular case, because that's about 1/4 of an inch that's stuck in there, maybe even 1/2 of an inch. I tried drilling it out with a smaller drill bit, and it's not working. And when I tried the larger drill bit, it is just skipping across the surface of it, and I might try that some more. But just think of what this task is that's ahead of me. I have to drill through this much metal in order to extract it. Like, it's not going to bite into the metal enough to where it's it'll catch, onto the drill bit. And they don't make bolt extractors that are that small. So pretty much what it means is grinding down with a drill bit the length of that broken piece until I can get it out. I don't know what to do. Like, if I drill a hole next to it, I would be able to like get some needle nose pliers in there and pull the thing out, but probably not because there are these threads there. I don't think drilling a wider hole like in those channels in there is really going to hurt anything. But I don't know. I don't know what that thing does. I don't know what those channels do. What I am doing is introducing a lot of very fine metal particulates into the transmission fluid, which is not great. Alright, the chances of me being able to capture this on video are very small. So the problem is that there's a bump right where that screw is. It's forcing, I'm guessing that's copper, it's forcing that copper up, and there's no way I'm going to be able to bend it back into shape with that screw there, the remnants of that screw. And I can't force the yoke into place. Well, that screw is still there. So I'm definitely going to have to out. And keep my head up into the position that it needs to be in order to capture this. There's the bump. No, I don't want to focus on the splines. Good Lord. Just focus on this. No, I literally just picked what zone you're supposed to be zooming in on. This. Not up there, not the splines. I can't do this with 2 hands. Or with 1 hand. Right there. That's where the screw is. So we need to extract it some. God fucking damn it. Right there. See the bump? That's the bump we need to be not bumpted. And I cannot clear it by ramming the yoke in there and trying to force it down. It's just not going to work. There are no other obstructions in here, so that should be it. If I'm able to clear the stupid friggin' bump, oh my god. Oh my fucking god. Just fucking... I just want to capture all the walls. That's all I'm trying to do. I don't want to capture the splines. What even is inside these things? I don't think I'm going to be able to see the channels just because my camera is so fucking obsessed with the splines. I don't know. So it looks like however I get it done, I'm going to have to drill that thing out. Doesn't matter how much I pollute the transmission fluid, because I'm not going to be able to get the yoke in otherwise. Alright, I got motherfucking baby Jessica out of the pipe. All I had to do was drill 3 holes adjacent to it with progressively larger bits until I was able to fish that out of there. The housing is made of aluminum, and that's how I was able to do it. And you can see that there's that there was some progress that was being made by the titanium drill bits, but apparently titanium isn't as strong of a metal as steel. You know, it could be that it's because these are zinc plated, but I don't think so. I think it's just maybe the bits that I have, like the tip of it probably got worn off. Alright, so now for some car gore. This is what it took to get that thing out of there. So I'm probably going to be in the market for a new extension housing. Fortunately, there's a Mustang, an SN95 at pull apart, so I might go and get that. Okay. My next step is to kind of clear away some of the aluminum shavings and stuff, and see if it's even possible to fit the yoke in there, or if this crush sleeve is just toast. I mean, it's probably been bent like badly from that screw being in there. I'm gonna at least try to bend it back into shape, and see if maybe like I can leverage the yoke like in a circle around it and see if it'll bend itself back into shape. What I don't want to happen is for this to be constantly making a screeching noise or introducing some kind of vibration, because I did this whole thing just because I wanted the vibration above 65 miles an hour to go away. And by the way, the vibration was getting progressively worse. And like the only reason why I was doing this one was because it was like, well, I've already got it off, I might as well replace this one, even though, and this is the worst part, it didn't really even need it. All this like oil that's down here, I think it's just like coming all the way from the cylinder head gasket. So I'm going to use this as a way out of people asking me to fix their cars for them. I'll be like, are you sure this is what you want from me? So that's my next step. I might, like, I've got my air gun attachment, so I might be able to blow out some of those like from the inside, so that way it'll be wearing the transmission down a whole lot less. So that's my next step. We'll just see if we can even survive putting the yoke back in. So I think my plan of action is to go to Pole Park tomorrow and get a new thingy that goes in between the transmission and the drive shaft. I forget what it's called right this second. Get a used one of those. Examine the bushing on the inside of it. Hopefully it won't be too worn out. It doesn't matter if it is or if it isn't. I'm going to use it anyway. Hopefully I won't have to look at too many different cars. And, you know, we'll hit the jackpot with getting the 4R70W transmission, which is a serial number that I don't remember what it is right this second. It's like flugelhorn something something, ends with 00. I'm hoping that the seal, like the gasket that's in between that housing, what's it called, the existential housing, extension housing, like that'll be in good condition and I won't tear it like trying to get it off, and hopefully it'll come off easily, and hopefully I won't drop the thing, because there's no way you can, I mean, there are probably people that bring in transmission jacks and stuff into that yard. But I don't have one, and I think trying to transport one of those, like buying one of those new and putting it together, bringing it out there, I think that's too much to expect that I'm going to be able to get that done before the end of the long weekend. So I guess what I'm going to do is use the maybe use the engine mounting thing. I'll probably just tie some ratchet straps to some random place and hopefully it doesn't fall on me. I like to try to keep the transmission from just suddenly dropping down. At least while I'm under there, like I'll loosen it once I go back up top from underneath it. I won't have the, I don't have a battery powered impact gun. All I've got is the compressed air powered one. Which means I'm just going to be counting on what little muscle power I have and hoping that that's going to be enough. Like, I've done it before with other stuff and, just used a cheater bar for everything. Which is just the jack handle. You put that on the end of the breaker bar, get the stuff off that way. Hopefully I'll be able to get the bolts off of the differential, so that I can, or not the differential, yes, the differential to the drive shaft, get those bolts off so I can remove the drive shaft, so that I can remove the thingy. And hopefully I'll be able to get it around the, I don't think it'll be a problem, like trying to get it past the exhaust. Plus the exhaust is going to be out of the way, like because they cut off any of the catalytic converters there, because they don't want to resell them, or I guess maybe they do resell them, for scrap, probably to, I don't know, that's another topic. When putting it back, I'm going to use black RTV and, the paper gasket. I'm afraid that the paper gasket's just going to tear. And, a new gasket for the extension housing wouldn't get here in time for me to work on it, because I want to be working on it tomorrow, because all this is intended for me to be at work Tuesday night, and get enough hours of sleep on Monday night and Tuesday night, or Monday night, or Monday afternoon, to where I'm actually able to go to my job. I don't expect, this is the worst part, I don't expect to be free from like having to take an Uber or a Lyft on, at least not on Tuesday night. Hopefully I don't have like any appointments. So what was I going to say? I didn't know this until it was too late. I was rotating the splines, on the transmission which that's another thing. Hopefully I've got enough transmission fluid. Otherwise I'm just going to be driving around with it, with it low. Because I'm assuming that, like, when I take off that differential housing, like, all of it's just going to be flooding out. Like, hopefully enough of it is in the transmission pan that it won't be a total disaster. But I wasn't expecting to have to be moving the splines on that thing, the splines on that shaft on the transmission side. I didn't realize it, that it was going to be a problem until after I'd already done it. Because it's like, my logic was just, it's radially symmetrical. Like, what does it matter if I turn this thing? In the manual it says, the transmission and the drive shaft are a balanced assembly. Make sure that you mark it before you do any turning of it, and like when you're taking stuff out. And I didn't do that with the with that one transmission side shaft. So I'm screwed. I've turned it a whole bunch because I was trying to get out the little metal filings. So I'm just screwed. Like, there's no way that I can get it back to where it was because I have no idea where it was when I took it off. I marked, like, the yoke, like, before I'd taken it off, so I can put that on easily. So that part, the drive shaft part, like, is going to go back on like it was, but there's no way for me to find where that thing was indexed to match it to the yoke. I don't know what that's going to mean. It's either going to completely destroy the differential and the transmission, or just nothing's going to be affected, and they're not, they're maybe exaggerating the importance of that. Because it's like, where would the transmission be balanced? Like, there's no difference between those two. It's spinny and it's spinny on this end. Like, you don't really need to match it up exactly. I mean, if I had infinite time, I would be getting a new gasket, and it would arrive in time, and I'd put that new gasket on, after I'd gotten the used one, put that together. I don't have that time, so I'm just going to be reusing the old gasket if I can. If it's paper, I am screwed. Well, not screwed, just regular screwed. Because I'm going to be waiting 2 to 4 days for it to get here. Because that was like the closest that any set I could find online was. Like, I didn't see any that were on Amazon. I could look again on Amazon and see if maybe just that gasket without the bushing is for sale, but I kind of want to get the bushing so I can replace it, like, as soon as I can. Although that's going to mean taking off that extension housing again, putting it back on again, just so I can get a new gasket on there. And I don't think they say you can use RTV. And even if I did, that's got a 24-hour set time. Like, you can't just fill that thing up with oil again. And that's a little bit more important than the optional RTV that's on the seals. So kind of everything is sort of hinging on Amazon delivering on Memorial Day, or I guess even Tuesday, but probably what's going to end up happening is they'll deliver it like Monday night, and so I won't really be able to work on it until it gets there. I've got other stuff to work on. I've got the gear oil to measure, so I put the gear oil back in the correct proportion probably just a little spritz of the torque friction modifier. I know you're supposed to do a specific proportion, but like, would it really matter if you do a few dollops more than you're supposed to? So yeah, that's my next task, and I pretty much have to do that before I even go to sleep so that Amazon will get it in the pipeline. Like I could just avoid having to go to pull apart, but again, like the new or used, there was a new one, but it was waiting even longer. It would be on like next Monday, like before it would arrive. Like there was a refurbished one, a remanufactured, and it has a new bushing and a new seal on it, but it's more expensive, and I just don't. It's more expensive, but the thing that I'm more worried about is it getting here too late, because every day that I'm having to take an Uber to work is money that I'm losing, to the tune of like $70 to $80 a day, and I don't want to use my PTO to try to take care of all this stuff. So I can get the pinion nut torqued down the way it's supposed to, and have some room to maybe finish everything up that needs to be finished up that I can. This is just a nightmare. I think if I had driven that screw anywhere else, it would have just went into the aluminum housing, broken off. I could have done something else, I could have just drilled that down, but probably the reason why it snapped was because it went into that little cavity at the bottom of the extension housing. I don't think even a seal remover would have gotten that seal off. This is all because stinking Ford made the seal with a lip that's like this big, no, smaller, just super teeny tiny to where you can't. It's just a bad design. I know there are better design seals because I put a better design seal on the differential. And getting that one out was a nightmare, but it didn't have this gigantic disaster that the other ones, caused. I mean, I realized that I caused it, but that was just me trying to finish it up as soon as I could, to try to stay ahead of any problems. So this is exhausting. It's painful, like physically painful. It's nerve-wracking. I just hate it. Like, I don't know why anybody would voluntarily choose to work on cars aside from money. I hate it here. All right, so I came up with a better plan. I think it's better. Instead of going to pull apart and spending like $50 on getting a extension housing from them, I still expect that I'm going to need a new gasket for that extension housing. So it wouldn't matter if I got one of those, because I'm expecting the gaskets either on that one, the used one, or the one that I've currently got. I expect both of those to tear because they're probably just cheap paper gaskets. So I need a new gasket then. So either way, if I were to go to pull apart and get one of those, or if I were to come up with some other solution, I would still need a gasket. So My plan is get a gasket that will arrive on Tuesday from O'Reilly's Tuesday morning, take the bus or ride my bike to get get the gasket. And in the meantime, on Monday afternoon or evening, just depending on how long all the stuff takes to get the old one dropped, I will be able to take out the old one, put air through it, and make sure that all the metal shavings are out of there, and sweep up the floor underneath the car because I didn't get to do that. I cleaned up just tools and stuff in the garage, but I didn't sweep just because I had to go to the bathroom really bad, and I hadn't taken any medicine, and I hadn't eaten anything, and I really needed to, and I need to sleep. So I ordered a gasket, and the whole reason why I need to take off the differential housing is because I have no way, because you have to have a special tool. Like I've seen people either make them themselves or possess an original tool from 18 years ago that Ford made specifically to remove those bushings. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to take off the housing because whether I push it through, it's going to fall into the inside of that differential housing, or if I push it out, I'd need to take it off. So hopefully I don't tear it up too much, like any more than it already has been torn up. Get it cleaned off, get it ready. Do the stuff with the differential, the stuff that I can control. Get the brakes and stuff put back on, make sure it's torqued to the spec that it's supposed to be. And maybe that in itself will be what fixes the vibration. Then just leave it on the floor. Tuesday morning, drive over, or not drive over, take the bus or take my bike, get a new bushing, because that's going to arrive on Tuesday also, and get the gasket, because that's also going to arrive on Tuesday. And even if, I just realized I have no way of securely putting that thing into place, like the new one. I can hammer, do all kinds of damage getting the old one out, and that doesn't matter, but trying to put the new one in without damaging it is going to be a challenge. I think probably the easiest way would just be either using a block of wood or something to make sure it's in there flush. But that's risky because it really can be misaligned. It is just you're talking 10,000ths of an inch. I guess that would just be 1/100th. Clearance. It is just such a tight fit. Because it's a bushing, it's not a bearing. I don't know what the difference is between those two. It might be academic. Okay, so it's going to be writing on fluid, and just just the most filmy thin film layer of fluid that's keeping that thing floating and able to be spinny. I just need to be very super careful. I spent $30 on just the bushing. I think it was $32 on the bushing, and my total was $70 for a bushing and a gasket, which is still cheaper than Uber. The sooner I can get that stuff in, the better. So it's still theoretically possible that I'll be able to get all those bolts tightened down, get the gasket in place, get that sleeve in where it's supposed to be. And I'll probably do it like while it's still outside, like before I put it in, like before I install it, because just it seems like it would be easier to do it that way. And get the new gasket in place. I won't have the 24 hours. Well, I won't really need it, because the new gasket can just go and dry. I can just put like some Vaseline like as a layer around it. Do that whole thing. Get it cranked back up, get it tightened down, torqued to spec, get the new shaft into place, and really that's like, I need to make sure that the bushing is slid onto the yoke. Make sure that thing fits before I even try to install it into the extension housing. Make sure the gasket fits and everything. So it's, you know, I can do the thing with the gear oil tomorrow. The transmission fluid, depending on just how much leaks out, I mean, most of the transmission fluid's going to be in the transmission fluid pan anyway, but I'm assuming that a lot of it will be in the housing too, in the extension housing also. So refill the transmission fluid, and that, you know, that should be it. Everything should be fine. Get the bolts on the differential side torqued to spec. This is what I do all the time. I'm like just having to constantly think ahead about whether or not the stuff is going to work and how to do all this problem solving, watching videos, and I'm just mentally rehearsing the actual physical steps and stuff, you know, and all the logistics before I even go out there. And even then, I still run into problems like this. It's just nuts. Maybe put a little bit of steel stick on the little holes that I made. I don't think it really makes a difference. That's just a channel for fluid to go through, and I think there'll be a good enough seal anyway. I can just fill that with like RTV even, just to bridge the gap that way. Maybe not. Steel stick should be fine. I don't know even how much I need to fix all that stuff. So that's the plan, but I need to at least take a nap or something. This has just been absolutely insane. Almost 24 hours of being awake, and even longer than that because I only took a 4-hour nap. So really I've been awake since 1 a.m. on Friday night. So we're going on 36 hours pretty much of very, very little sleep. Almost 48 hours. Not 48 hours. It's a lot. This has just been crazy, and I hate it. Yep, you're just gonna keep hearing me say that because it's true. All right, so where we're at right now, I got the thingy out. In order to do that, I took out these 2 bolts, and then once I started taking out the 4 bolts that hold up the transmission mount, I put that underneath there, the jack underneath there, and lowered it down. Took out those 4 bolts. Then once it was all the way down, I took out these 6 bolts. I'm putting those back in is going to be a pain. Drained out, you know, actually I need to put a cloth down. It's like more paper towels done underneath there because it is not done leaking out. I thought it was, but it's still slowly dribbling out. I'm gonna measure at least how much transmission fluid is in there right now, so that I can have a rough idea of how much transmission fluid I need to put back in. I do have transmission fluid available to put into there, but I've got plenty. Yeah, I mean, pretty much what I'm doing is flushing it at this point because I've taken out so much of it. I measured out gear oil into a couple of cups, so I am not optimistic that I'm gonna have enough to put in with the gear oil that I have remaining. So I'm gonna have to order more gear oil. You know, I didn't want to have to order more of the gear oil. I wanted to just do it all in one pass, you know, when I was replacing the axle seals, but given how long this has taken, that's just entirely unrealistic. There's just no way I would have been able to do this all in one go. So unfortunately, you know, lost like, that's probably $15 or more, maybe $15 to $30 worth of gear oil. And I don't think it's a good idea to reuse it because there's debris in it. Maybe if I was cheaper, I would be doing that. But it's like, look, I just got this back together. I don't want to mess it up more than I already have. So got that out. Then in order to get this thing out, first what I tried was, this is how it was, let's see. Yeah, this is how it was positioned in there. So because it was marred with the stuff going, you know, outward like this, if I tried to push it this way, then it would have scratched it on its way out, even more than it already is. And so I tried the other way. I tried going in from the inside forward, and all that did was, you know, just dent this thing, and it didn't move at all. So what I did after that was I took a Diablo, it's like steel, it says steel demon maybe, and that's the part number for it. But I've had this you know, for a while, and that's when I needed to cut off certain things, and so I got that. And so I cut along this way, and pretty much as soon as I made that cut complete, it went like this, and then it caught on the blade, and I was just able to pull it out that way, so it offered like zero resistance. It looks, you know, on the inside it looked fine. Aside, like, these scratches are really just for me, you know, messing about in there. The only scratches that are notable are these ones that are like horizontal that run on the inside, and I think that could possibly be from, you know, it oscillating and stuff, you know, but otherwise I think it was in fine condition. This plug, I'm gonna put some gasket stuff on it because, I mean, I could see just a little, you know, like maybe a drop from out of there, but you know, it's not as good as like a metal welded thingy. That's the serial number on it. It is a 4R70W transmission, and that's the thing that goes with it. There's one that doesn't have this, or there's ones that are just sealed, and really that I think is interchangeable. So that's what's going on right now. You know, I don't think that this is really going to be a problem, just because it's going to seal along this, and it's going to seal, you know, along the inside lip. It's going to seal along the outside lip, and most of the places aside from where I've gouged it. You know, and I can put gasket stuff like right here and everything. So after that, after I got all that out, I did the pinion nut and I put RTV on the back of the nut, and I put thread locker around like inside the threads and on the outside of the threads on the thing that it threads onto. And I marked one spot on the bolt so I could tell how many turns it was, and then I tightened it down as much as I could with this, and then when it got to a point where I couldn't physically turn it anymore, I used the impact gun and tightened it down even more. You know, there was a lot of resistance, you know, so there is the fear that, you know, I'm over crushing the crush sleeve and that'll just absolutely ruin the differential and everything, you know, because it's got all these fine-tuned adjustments and stuff. But I wanted to get it to 10 because the spec is 8 to 14. So a lot of people were saying just set it to 10. You know, and we're talking just like not even a 1/16 of an inch, like going from this to like this, maybe not even that. So it was just barely turning it to get it past, like initially I got it to like 5 and I got to like 7.5, and I could have stopped there, but I kept going because I wanted to get it to 10, and then I got it to like 9, and then when I did it again I got it to be like 11. So it is like just the difference between like just granules of sand of distance. So I probably took like, I don't know, a couple dozen like measurements of this, just going and it's hard to track the motion on this thing, you know, with the bare eyes, because I'm having to hold it on there at an angle, like at an awkward angle and everything, and you know, like cup one hand around this thing like while it's turning, make sure it doesn't add to the drag. You can't really read the Newton meters thing. I don't know how you would go about doing that. Maybe if you slid this like down a certain way, but you probably have to calibrate it, you know, for that to work. Hopefully that hasn't happened over the years, but this is pretty much new old stock. You know, so the closest that I could tell was that it was going to 11, and that's just, you know, with my naked eye trying to track something that's in motion. It doesn't, you know, it doesn't beep or anything, but it just looks, and it's not like a solid thing. It'll go like it'll go to excursions of like 20. You're not supposed to do it like that. You're supposed to do it in a smooth, continuous motion, not going from a dead stop. You know, it's supposed to be steady. And, you know, I did it fast, I did it slow, and it was all reading the same when I did that, just as long as I was doing it steadily. Like, you know, I could do it slow and it would still pretty much read the same thing. So this, hang on, I'm trying to show it accurately. So that is about what it was showing. You know, just barely above 10, maybe like at the halfway point, between 10 and 12.5. So I'm satisfied with that. I think it'll work. I hope it'll work. Hopefully I haven't shortened the life of the differential and made a more expensive and difficult fix in the future. I didn't even need to use my hot rolled steel. I just put this in one of the thingies, then that stops on the differential body, and you can just tighten it down from there. So that part's done. Next step, it's hard to believe, but I'm actually past the worst of the stuff for today. I might still work longer than I have to. Like I can drill out the one thing that I bought that expensive air drill for, but Actually next, probably I'm going to refill the gear oil as much as I can and kind of get an idea of how much remaining gear oil I need to put in there. I'm going to just make marks on the cups to give myself an idea of how much needs to go in there. Yeah, so refilling it is the next thing that I want to do. If I can. I don't know if I can or not. After that, I'll put the brakes back on, put the tire back on, and I'll be done-ish back here. You know, I'll still need to put the bolts on once I've got the drive shaft and everything. I'm going to clean up this. I'm going to clean up some of the transmission. Going to soak up that. Going to measure how much transmission fluid. Okay, so this is a long enough video. Alright, so I did some measuring. I need 237 mils of gear oil. I'm going to add like about 60 mils of the gear oil fluid supplement to it. I've got enough transmission fluid to refill it tomorrow. That's 1540 milliliters of transmission fluid. I need to buy some more transmission fluid eventually, like just so I have one in stock that's open and then one that's unopened that I can use. Same with this. I'm going to buy an unopened bottle of this so that I can use it someday later and I won't have to use it or anything. So that's just the map that I did. I put the thing back underneath there so it'll catch the dribblings. I still need to do all the brakes and stuff, but I just wanted to make sure I was doing all the math first before I started refilling everything. I got some stuff cleaned up a little bit. Just the bulk waste fluids. I'm gonna leave the transmission drip pan underneath there because it's just gonna keep dribbling all night. Same with this stuff. I'm just gonna leave that uncleaned up until the stuff gets here on Wednesday and probably not work on it until Thursday because that's how long I gotta wait to get more gear oil here. I'm just gonna be running on less than the specified amount of gear oil until then. I need 237 milliliters, which is means I'm going to be short by like 100 milliliters of fluid at least. So next step is I put the filler cap on the differential. That was 22 foot-pounds. The brake calipers are going to be 23 foot-pounds. The wheels are going to be, I think, 95. I got the brakes and the tires back on. I think this is all I'm going to do for tonight. I could do that thing with the missing bolt. You know, the bolt that's broken off in there. I'm not going to. I had to, in order to put the brakes back on, one of my neighbors gave me a tool that is like a disc and it's got two studs on it because it's got those brake types where you have to turn the piston in order to get it on there. So 23 foot-pounds to get the thingies on. Tires are not torqued down, they're just on there so I can lower it when I'm ready. Just doing some cleanup right now, cleaning up oil spills and stuff. I just wiped that thing down and used some soapy water on this. I think I'm going to put some RTV on the inside of this thing because I noticed that like just a few drops of transmission fluid were getting out from that, so I don't think it's like the world's best seal. And I don't think I need to really, like, you know, torque this thing down to spec or anything because this is plastic, so, you know, I can easily over torque it and break this and then it's no longer a good seal. So I got the metal shavings out of there. Like, I mean, look at this, it's immaculate. I don't really care about like this kind of surface stuff. It's not going to affect anything really. The new gasket that I got has cork in it, which I think is a step up from that one. I'm probably still going to keep this one just as a backup maybe. So after I get that cleanup done, I'm just gonna go inside. As you can see, there's an oil spill back in there. All right, let's get that work done. We might have a problem. So this is the old one. Even with this cut in it, it still feels pretty tight. Here's the new one. This is with it being in the freezer. I could probably get a feeler gauge in there, but you can tell it's like probably off by like, you know, 1/1000th of an inch or something. Maybe the fluid being in there will make up the difference though. The other part of this is just, you know, trying to get it in there. I put it in the freezer in the hopes that it would, you know, in the hopes that it would shrink up some and I would be able to get it in there, but just I cannot shove it in there at all. It's just too wide. So my next step is to try to heat it up with a torch. I know that's going to do it unevenly. I know it's going to do it unevenly, but it's just like, what are my choices here? I'm not going to throw this thing in the oven. Yes, I know it's in there crooked. I don't think it's going to make a difference. So that's where the channel is. That's where the thingy is. It's not that big of a difference. It's like, okay, it's offset by some, and that thing, God damn it. Now that I'm looking at it, it might be more of a problem than I think. Yeah, let's just test it out and see how it goes. So the way that I was able to do this was I heated up with this and went like doo-doot, doo-doot, doo-doot all the way around. And then I beat on it with some wood, and then I took this socket, put it on the inside of this, and then I beat it some more with that. So I was able to get it in there. If it's not, then I guess I'm going to be taking this back apart all over again. So now the next thing is to kind of wait for it to cool down a little bit and then just install it. I might, I think I could just, I don't think the little splinters are going to make any difference. It's organic material, it's not going to matter. Alright, just a quick check. I rocked it back and forth until it went on there, so I do have a sanity check now in place. When it was warm, it wasn't going on there. And it was kind of scratching up the inside of it, so I probably should have waited until it cooled down some. So hopefully it hasn't ruined that thingy. Oh, this is some bullshit. The thingy that they had in the thing, on the order thing, showed like a channel of like red silicone like around the inside of this, but obviously that isn't what this is. At the very least, it's the, you know, it fits. I'm probably going to put a little bit of RTV on this just to doubly make sure it would fit. I was really hoping it would be a quart gasket, you know, so that I could, that's what I got on the rear differential, so that's what I wanted on the front, but apparently that's not what I'm going to get. In retrospect, I really should have just unplugged the drain plug of the transmission fluid and just drain the whole thing, just because it overnight has just been going wherever it wants to. You know, I put the pan in between the seam of, or you know, where the extension housing used to be, and that's where it was dribbling out to. But it was also dribbling out over like way over here. It was just traveling, it just gravity and then just wherever it wants to go. And then I dragged the mat out from underneath there, and because the transmission fluid had gotten underneath the mat, it's now super slick surface over there. So I'm just gonna have to like use detergent or cat litter or something to kind of absorb some of the fluid that's on there. I could use just the torch and like make it so it is just set on fire and disappears into nowhere instead of just being there. All right, so 21 foot-pounds are the 6 bolts that attach the extension housing to the other thingy. 59 foot-pounds were the bolts that attach the transmission mount to the extension housing. And then 41 foot-pounds are the 4 bolts that attach the actual mount, transmission mount to the frame. 69 foot-pounds are for the 4 bolts that connect to the differential. So the next step is to actually put the drive shaft into place. I might use the jack to just kind of get that thing into position a little bit better, because when you're on your back and just bench pressing that thing, it's hard to maneuver it around. As I've mentioned previously, I don't know where the marks are that align the spoke thingy, the splines, to the rest of the to the yoke. So I might be screwed. There's no point of reference on the yoke that'll tell me where it was supposed to connect to those splines. Same with back here. You know, I made some marks initially, but I think those have worn off in the process. So I don't know how much validity there is to putting it back exactly like it was. So I don't know what else to do. There's no way for me to just tell like how it's balanced, you know, on the transmission side to the drive shaft. Same with back here. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. It's radially symmetrical. There are no little weights or anything that would tell me that information. Or it doesn't make sense that there would be weights somewhere in the transmission that, you know, are counterbalancing things. Like there's weights in the engine, you know, when the engine is turning and everything. So that might have to do with stuff that's transmitted all the way down to where the drive shaft is. You know, but the engine, it should be balanced. Like by the time it gets to from, you know, where the force is generated to the drive shaft, you know, that connects to, or the output shaft that connects to the transmission. Like the vibrations should be isolated up here, and shouldn't be going all the way back to, you know, the differential. Same thing with the differential. The differential isn't weighted, it's radially symmetrical. So I'll just claim that it's BS, and that there's nothing to it, because I don't really have any other choice. Alright, so we might have a here, because it turns out that this yoke is not radially symmetrical. Not fully, anyway. Because it's got however many splines, but note something here. You can see it like instantly. There's an index. So that means that there's something that thing grips onto further down on the drive shaft, and I didn't make a note of on the splines where that would be. Like I can just start by assuming that where that white spot is, like maybe that's where the index is on this thing. But I don't really have a good way of seeing like further down in there where the thing is, because I don't think it changes. I think it's just like that all the way down. So maybe it does not matter where exactly I put it. Like if it catches on something and I can't force it in any further, then I probably ought to stop there. But this just looks really symmetrical to me. I got a lot of grease on there. Didn't mean to get that much. Alright, so I'm going to put a little bit of my most hated fluid onto the outside of the yoke to get it in there more. Alright, I'm back inside. I got the drive shaft installed. That was a task. I didn't really run into anything like specifically. It's just trying to do 69 foot-pounds with a torque wrench on your back with tight quarters is difficult. I'm gonna shower, do nothing else, and just well, maybe take medicine and everything. Go back out there, just take it for a test drive, get it up to like 65 miles an hour, assuming that the differential doesn't just explode on me or something, or isn't making like horrible noises that makes it undrivable until like I can get a new car. That's the plan. I kind of cleaned up the garage, but I'm just leaving it a mess because I know tomorrow I'm gonna have to be back in the soggy, damp, dirty, gross, greasy, oily, transmission fluid, slick, gross, just getting everywhere. Because I'm going to be undoing the gear oil thing, putting 237 milliliters more of gear oil in there, assuming it gets here, you know, early tomorrow afternoon or something. Get that torque back down, and then I think I'm going to combine that with trying to get that bolt extracted and putting the new one in, because that way I could kind of just wrap up the transmission work, you know, and then I'll just clean everything. I don't know. The fact that it took so much effort to get it tightened down to being within spec worries me. I'm afraid that, like, as I was doing that, I was crushing the sleeve, you know, which anytime you crush the sleeve, even just the teeniest, tiniest thousandth of an inch, it just wrecks everything downstream. I hope that no new cars are still using crush sleeves and are only using spacers from now on. It's just an absolute nightmare. So the good news is that the differential didn't explode or anything, and it's not making any weird noises. The bad news is that the vibration above 60 miles an hour is still there. So I did all that work for absolutely nothing. I mean, I guess you could say that, you know, U-joints need to be replaced every so often, but they weren't failing apparently. You know, the seal, guy riding on my ass. You know, the seal definitely needed to be replaced because it was leaking. But, you know, the other seal didn't, and the U-joints didn't need to get replaced, so I just did all that work for no result, you know, no reward. It's like, you know, this kind of stuff is the reason why I get to a point where I'm just really reluctant to want to go outside and work on the car, just because it's like I do, you know, attempt after attempt and spend all this money on different stuff trying to figure out what the problem is, and just it never gets fixed, you know. It's just, I couldn't see hardly anything because, like, it's really humid right now, And I just missed my turn. Fuck. Because I can't see anything. I can't freaking see anything because it's so humid. The windows are fogging up on the outside, and I don't have the Aquapel water repellent thing on this car. Let's see if the alley is clear this time. My neighbor keeps working on cars and they keep blocking the alley, which is not something that you're supposed to do. I can't see anything because the windshield wipers aren't getting the dampness off of the windshield. So at some point after I, God damn it. He's got like 3 cars all blocking the alleyway. Like, this is not your personal parking lot, dude. This is an alleyway for the whole neighborhood. Just can't see shit. We gotta go all the way back around. So what was I gonna say? I don't know what the next step in trying to get rid of the fucking vibration is. I kind of want to give up on it and just say that it's just never, ever, ever going to be fixed. Because it's... What? Yeah, just turn your brights on. Asshole. I don't know what the next thing would be. Get the, maybe get the drive shaft rebalanced. Get the differential worked on some more. Can't see anything because Windows just completely opaque. Just going in blind. I mean, get the fuck out of the way. Is it the engine that's imbalanced and it's causing that? I don't know what else it could be, all the tires have a different pattern on them. They're not worn out or anything. They're just different brands because some of them are used. So the tires could be... I don't think the tires are imbalanced because they balanced them all like right before they put them on. I think this is something bigger, Like, it doesn't make sense that it would be the engine because the engine's supposed to be balanced already. And rebalancing the drive shaft doesn't make any sense. Like, once it's balanced, it's balanced, It doesn't just get unbalanced. It's possible that it's like bent or something, but I don't think so because it's not aluminum. What else could it be?
I mean, there's only so many parts in a car. There's like 10,000 of them, but like, you know, you narrow it down to a few main systems and it should be up. God damn it. You know, and it should be one of them. So I have no idea what to do next. It's drivable at least. That's pretty much the only thing it has going for it.
So far today, I've filled up approximately 237 milliliters of gear oil. I don't know exactly how much actually went in there because it just goes everywhere except for inside the differential. I was able to fill up the U-joints. I used this thing and then I tried to use the needle one. It seems like this one works better than the needle one. I just kept pumping, which really wasn't a lot, until it started like, you know, going backwards, like it was overfilling with that. So I did that on the forward and rear part of the drive shaft. I tightened down the thingy down to 22 foot-pounds and put a little bit of Loctite on that. Failure. We failed. I failed. I wasn't able to successfully extract the bolt on the differential thing. I tried using different drill bits to get a hole started that these thingies could fit into. So I used the smallest one, did that, tried to get it in there, and you know, tried to get it off with the smallest one, and the smallest one wasn't working. You know, so I tried the next biggest one, and that one isn't, you know, something that can really fit into the, you know, the diameter of the bolt. So when I tried to use, you know, the drill in order to get it out, put it in there, and part of it is that it's binding up against the drive shaft, and part of it is that it's, or not the drive shaft, the differential cover. You know, so it can't exactly turn, and part of the problem is just that trying to get either, you know, any one of these bits dead center onto that bolt to where it can actually be centered and be just turning the bolt and not like contacting any of the differential itself. You know, I wasn't able to do that, and part of that is because that bolt was broken off unevenly. So whenever I would, you know, try to use this, it would skitter off, you know, it would walk to one side of it. So I wasn't able to do it that way. So this is $50 pretty much wasted. They also didn't send me a chuck. It says 1.0 to 1.0 dash 10 millimeters, and it looks like it says, I can't see if that says Jayco's. Maybe it's Jacobs. It's probably Jacobs. Yeah, it's Jacobs brand, and I don't know how many notches are on this thing, so it could be that, you know, if I get a chuck, it's not going to be compatible with this thing. So I'm going to have to look up how to get a chuck that fits that, because I'm just going to hold on to this thing. If I've used it once, you know, even if it was a failure, I'm probably going to use it again at some point, and just the amount of money that I spent on shipping and taxes, you know, and just if I were to sell it again, I'd be paying seller fees and stuff. So I'm just going to hold on to it. So that's all I'm going to do today, aside from cleaning up tons and tons and tons of oil. You know, well, it's not a lot, but it's enough. Something that I noticed with this thing is that it's got an air leak around the knob. You know, and I tightened down this bolt as far as I could, but it was still leaking out through there, so it's possible that I'll have to unscrew it, take that thingy off, put something down there to seal it. So I don't know what I would use for that, aside from like some Gorilla Glue or something. It would have to be airtight, so I'm just gonna ignore it just because I can only see myself using this tool seldom. And even with that air leak, I don't think it's gonna interfere too much with the actual usage of the tool. All right, so lots of oil. Gonna use just dish soap, and I gotta clean out the fluid transfer pump and stuff. Probably just gonna, I've got to mail something. I'm gonna go to O'Reilly's and pick up some more transmission fluid, just not because I really need it right now, just so that I've got it in stock, and really oil prices are only gonna go up from here.